And in real estate investing, yes, a specific transaction is very different than running or operating a company. But if you're going to be successful in real estate investing, you should treat it like a business and not a hobby. So I would say take that very serious and work on building that, your skills and your systems and all of that.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. I so appreciate having you guys here today listening to us. I have a new guest for you. He is new to me. He will be new to you, although there may be some listeners who are that Kevin is not new. They have already had a depth of experience with him, but I am looking forward to hearing his story because we have been talking for 10 minutes previous to turning on the recorder about stories and the powerfulness of being able to walk through real estate over a long period of time. So let me read Kevin's bio here. For those of you who are on YouTube and Roku TV, you can see that I have up here his website. Kevin is the president of the Pine Financial Group. And you can see here that he's the one who formed Pine Financial Group in October of 2008, after leaving a small mortgage company as a senior loan officer for residential lending. Kevin has a degree in finance, which he obtained after serving 4 years in the U.S. Army. Kevin started out in banking, working at First Bank in the lending department while in school. From there, he started his first financial real estate investment company, which is still active today. Congratulations. Over time, it takes a lot of strength. He and his company have closed over not 1,100 transactions. I hear it's actually 2,000 transactions.
Yes, we need to update this, don't we?
There we go. That's okay. Mine's the same way. As a buyer, seller, or private money lender, Kevin and Pine Financial Group have access to over, it's not 55 million anymore. Now, what is it, Kevin?
95 million.
95 million in private equity, and the business continues to see strong growth. After college, Kevin spent 2 years working with Wall Street as a mortgage bond analyst before leaving to work as a loan officer with real estate investments full-time. He has spent more than 14 years as a real estate investor and 10 years in real estate lending, and he is the author of The 45-Day Investor and frequent speaker. He's been quoted in the Las Vegas Review-Journal, the Denver Post, and a variety of other publications. Kevin, thank you for showing up. We so appreciate it.
Christine, I just got to say, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to do this. These are always so much fun, but thank you for sharing your story with me right before you hit record. A lot of real estate investors go through challenges like you and I have, and just hearing that and seeing how you came through it, that was great. So I appreciate you sharing that with me.
I think that if my show does anything, as you know, and as I stated to you, Kevin, as I try to state to a lot of the people, hopefully my show is something that both sets people up as an expert, because that's what you need to be in real estate. If you're going to do it full time, you need to take it as a career, as a choice, as a discipline. But also problem solving, being able to take a tough situation and find a solution, even if it's financially a loss. Finding a solution is really a requirement inside of real estate. And that problem solving is just as important as any education and expertise that you can create.
Yeah, I love it. And doing something, right? Like so many people put their head in the sand and they don't know what to do and they don't know how to get out. It's not the perfect solution every time, but if you're moving forward, it's a solution nonetheless.
Exactly. So Kevin, tell us a little bit about Pine Financial and your choice to start Pine Financial. And then we'll move to we'll set you up as the expert first so that people understand you do have a length of history. And then we'll go into here, let me bare my soul.
Yeah, that's great. I wasn't quite as young as you when I got started.
Okay.
I hear
you weren't 2 years old
17 when you had your first investment. I was definitely out of high school and out of the Army. I bought my first house when I was in the Army and I moved into it, and then I had some roommates and that kind of thing. Moved out of it 2 years later, kept it. That was my first rental property. So I bought my first home when I was just turning 21. So it was 4 years behind you.
Okay, I'll forgive you 4 years.
Look, I was a broke college kid eating top ramen and pasta and spaghetti at night, trying to get through school. I was lucky enough to have the Army to help me, and I was making some money from the GI Bill. So I used my student loans to buy another property. And then I just started growing my portfolio. But look, I didn't have money, so I had to figure out how to do it without money. So I was doing very creative stuff like lease options and contract for deed and subject twos, and I was doing 1 or 2 of these every single month. And because of that success, I got recruited into the finance side of the real estate investment business. And I absolutely love the finance side because it's the deal structure. It's the negotiation with the seller, how you're going to put the deal together, putting the pieces together. So I really latched on to that and started working with my mentor at the time. This was in 2006. Her name was Susan, and she taught me how to use a private individual to fund a real estate transaction. So I started with just that one individual with $100,000. 2008 hits. She decides, I like to teach real estate. I don't like actually doing it. I enjoy doing it. So we separated and I started Pine Financial, and here we are.
And Pine Financial has truly grown because, I mean, running a successful real estate transaction is very similar to running a successful business, right? There's some similar, my background, in among all the jobs I had, one of the jobs was I was a small business management consultant. And so you bring to bear the same management skills of a small business to a real estate business, and you do usually get a lot of fruit. But running a business isn't necessarily the same as understanding real estate. Those are kind of like, they're two different skill sets.
Totally, I would say totally different. Now, real estate's just the commodity or the product, but the business, I think a lot of businesses are going to be operated the same way. It's really comes down to your marketing to generate the leads, and then putting your systems in place, close and sell. It's all of that, right?
So you do both.
You do both.
So I'm saying you, Kevin, you do both. And yes,
I do both.
Kevin does both. And in general, if you're going to be running a business and in real estate, you actually need to do both. Yeah,
that's such a great point. And in real estate investing, yes, a specific transaction is very different than running or operating a company. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to be successful in real estate investing, you should treat it like a business and not a hobby. So I would say take that very serious and work on building that, your skills and your systems and all of that.
And you actually, I saw on your website, do you have a fund as well? It was, how do you become a hard money, right? Do you guys have a fund side to your business so that you actually are raising funds, which is why you have gone from 55 billion
95, yep,
to 95,
right?
Is because you're actually do take professionally, that's what you guys do. You take other people's money, investors' money, people like me who have invested in real estate, who are looking for a way to diversify in their holdings, right? To be able to not trust just themselves in their own investing, right? But to be able to trust others as well, to be as smart, if not smarter than they are, right? In being able to do that. So you take other people's money. And so part of that is running this business model and being able to understand real estate, and part of the success of that.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, understanding the real estate investing business is essential for the hard money lending business.
Right. But you're also capable. So tell me a little bit, and I'm going to double down on that just because I, as an investor, do lend my money out to other people. As we talked about, I went through a whole stage of investing where that's pretty much what I did, right? And that was all I did for a while. Not other people's money, just my own. So it's not a hard money lending house. I was just a chick lending out cash.
That's awesome.
Right? That's all I was. So why don't you talk about what you do to protect your investors and why that works so well inside of Pine Financial? Because it's not just protecting your investors, because part of protecting your investors is knowing the right deal.
Yeah, and I always say that return of capital is far more important than return on capital. So when I was starting in 2008, I had some individual investors that wanted to fund real estate deals, just like you were doing. Mm-hmm. And so I would just bring the two together and I would charge a fee for that. The feedback was, look, we don't have any liquidity. If they stop making payments, my income stops. Mm-hmm. There's not very much diversification. It's a high dollar entry. There's all of these challenges. And so in 2009, I created our first mortgage fund. Mm-hmm. And that created the liquidity, the lower investment entry point, the diversification, the cash flow. All of this was solved with that first fund. Now, we have a very low default rate. It's just over 2%, like 2.1, something like really close to that number. Mm-hmm. A default to me would be if we're getting a property back. So it's either a deed in lieu of foreclosure or we actually go through a foreclosure process. But we loan pretty conservative. We have really low loan to values. So if we do have to take a property back, we can liquidate the property to recoup the principal amount, which happens more often than not. Now, it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you take some losses, but there's insurance for the property. There's insurance ensuring your lien position on the property. So there's lots of checks and balances and things that you go through to protect that money. And if you're just getting started, you could mess that up for sure. Now, 2,000 loans later, I'm still learning, and I've just learned something the other day, actually, that I've never even thought would happen. But 2,000 loans, you get a pretty good grasp of what you're doing.
So it sounds like not only have you set up for the investors to be protected because they have a lower entry point, they have greater liquidity, they have the capacity to move in and out, right? You're ensuring and making sure that they're going to get their principal back, which is the primary focus, and then it's the return on their capital. What do you do on the due diligence side on the property itself? Because that also protects the investors.
Yeah, so we do physical inspections before we fund anything, and we have two loan programs. If we're loaning a higher loan to cost, I'll call it.
Okay.
It's a higher loan to value also, but if we're doing a high loan to cost loan,
yeah.
And for those of you that don't know that's just loan to the overall cost of the project. And we will go up to 100% if it's a really solid deal with a good borrower. So
right, because loan to cost is different than loan to final value, right? So
value.
I can as a flipper, when I've been flipping in my past, I can get 100% of the money I need to do the project, but it might still be 75% of the ARV, the final value of the project that I've worked on. So that is the definitional difference that you're talking about.
Exactly right. Now
Yeah.
we're at 70% or less. Sometimes we'll even come lower than that.
Okay.
So that gives us a good cushion in case we do miss something.
Mm-hmm.
But we do inspect the property prior to funding. We get a full appraisal if we're doing those higher leverage loans. So we have a third party come give us an opinion of value. And then we inspect the property through the project. So anytime that the borrower or the investor, the fix and flipper needs money to keep the project going to fund it, we'll come out and inspect the property, make sure they're hitting their benchmarks before we release anything.
So you guys do both purchase loans as well as rehab loans?
Yes, there's some differences there depending on the goals or strategies of the investor, but we could close in a day, if we need to. In those cases, we don't have time to do as much diligence as we would like. So there's no appraisal and that kind of thing. So we're a much lower loan to value on those just so that we could be ultra conservative. But sometimes investors need to close really fast. So we are there for that. So
I'm gonna jump back here to your webpage for a minute because I want to ask you something about. Here we go. All right, for borrowers. So you have rehab loans, 90% acquisition loans, which has to do with, the cost versus the ARV. You have commercial bridge loans, 45-day bridge loans, which it's kind of a different animal in some ways. You have IRA loans, which is very important for those people who are looking to get an IRA loan. That actually can be hard to find lending houses that are willing to lend against an IRA since it's non-recourse. Right. You have flash cash loans, portfolio loans, which means it's across multiple properties, as well as conventional loans. So you guys seem to have quite a breadth of assets, or not products, quite a breadth of products that you can bring to your clients.
Yeah, and I'll peel back the curtain here just a little bit, Christina. We actually don't do portfolio loans as the normal sense you would think of it as. Okay. So in real estate investing, portfolio lending, most people are going to think about a local bank that keeps a loan on their portfolio, and that gives them the advantage of approving loans that Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac would not buy. So there's more flexible underwriting because they're keeping the loan. So that's when you could do the blanket loan like you were talking about over multiple properties. If you have some credit challenges, you can maybe overcome that with a compensating factor, all of that. So I put that on there for SEO, and it helps drive traffic to the website, not because I actually do that one. And same thing with the conventional loans. So we don't do those. We refer both of those. We refer those out. But anything that has to do with private money or hard money, we'll look at those.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Because you might have somebody who already does work with you, somebody like me, who actually owns rental properties, and I'm looking for more of a conventional loan on my rental properties after I've already purchased them, rehabbed them, rented them. Now I'm looking for not a hard money loan or private equity loan, right? Something that costs me more cash. I'm now looking to set them up for a long-term stationary position, right? Have strong stability, and I'm looking for more conventional loan. I can still come to you guys and say, hey, who's your referral? Because now I'm ready to take you guys off of this. Who can I work with?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important because when you're talking about conventional loans, even though Fannie and Freddie buys all of them, right? If you say conventional,
it's truly conventional. That's what it means, right? Yeah.
So they have their own underwriting guidelines, but the other lenders that are out there originating these loans to be sold to Fannie and Freddie sometimes add extra guidelines onto it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to know which lenders to go to that sell direct to Fannie and Freddie with none of those overlay guidelines when you're doing, something like you're talking about. Because we could refinance using a new appraisal, one day after you buy it. And a lot of lenders want you to own it for 6 months or 12 months. So
they do. Absolutely. I have purchased properties with that structure in mind. Like, well, let's see, if I purchase this for more than its actual purchase price, but I work this into the rehab amount, then, now I have a loan that's this big on a property, and so I'm like, that way I can refinance before 6 months, the amount of money I want to get out because it's the amount of money I put in at the beginning.
Right.
It's this whole calculation that I have done on properties. And honestly, I rarely get them refinanced in 6 months, truth be told. I often end up going 6 months anyways, even though I have set them up in such a way that I can choose to refinance them for what I would like to get out on the refinance out without forcing the need for a new appraisal. So
that's great.
But it's, it's a game, right? It's a game we play with the requirements and restrictions that are inside of the real estate field and the lending field.
Exactly right. And if you're paying 12% on your hard money loan, you might not want to have that loan for 6 months.
Might not.
Might want to get that thing
paid
off as quickly as possible.
There's a chance you like to take a small mental unit and actually have it be, cash flow positive or more cash flow positive sooner than later.
That's
right. So, but it is interesting to me that you guys do though cover, I think some of the, like you cover some of the, let me backtrack. You have your fund and you guys probably do more of the traditional rehab loans, which to me are actually more conservative than maybe like a 45-day bridge loan. Now, is that accurate? Yeah. Tell me, is that an accurate assumption? I'm not a lender, right? I'm not a professional lender.
So the 45-day loan, we hardly do any of those. And here's the reason. It's a little bit cheaper, but the reason that was so effective or such a great loan when we created it was because of the deed restrictions put on by banks during the crisis and when you're flipping. So for the listener or the viewer, a deed restriction is basically the person that's selling or the company that's selling you the property can actually restrict what you could do with that property. And the restriction that I'm referring to here is a 30-day hold period. So you can't flip out of that property for 30 days. And if it's a wholesale type of deal where you're not doing any work, you just want to buy it and resell it for a profit, you couldn't do it. So we came up with the 45-day loan to give you your 30 days and then 2 weeks to close it after you season it for 30 days. We're not seeing those types of deed restrictions anymore. No. So it's not as relevant as a loan, but again, SEO, right? It's good to have that kind of stuff on there. Our 90% acquisition loan and our rehab loan are by far our two most popular loans. Okay. And then everything else kind of just falls in around that.
So given the rehab and, acquisition, 90% acquisition loans, what areas do you guys primarily work in and lend in? You guys are licensed, I'm sure, to lend in certain areas, and then you might actually have areas that even smaller areas that you feel you're experts in. So that's why I'm asking two different questions.
Yeah, so that's a good question. There's there's niches, right? And there's a geographic niche, and then there's a product type or offering. So we really are focused on residential rehab. So fix and flips, fix and refinance to hold as rentals, that kind of thing. Now we have been doing quite a bit more commercial bridge, value add type of financing lately. So that's kind of what our niche is as far as product. Now, geographically, we're definitely Colorado focused. We're based in Denver. So we loan up and down the Front Range in Colorado, but we've been loaning in Minnesota for a decade in the Twin Cities. and we do a fair amount out there too. So those are our two top markets.
Okay.
We do a handful of deals every month in Milwaukee. Otherwise, we're just kind of spread out if the deal seems strong enough in a state. There's not a ton of licensing requirements with this type of lending. As long as you're staying on the business purpose lending, it's very easy.
Okay.
Now, Minnesota is one where you need to have a license, but it's not as challenging as, a mortgage broker that's originating Fannie Mae loans.
Right. Okay. And I see you actually have a loan officer that specializes specifically in the Minnesota region. So.
Yep. So he's local. So any client that needs help, he sits down with them and works with them. He's the one that on the ground looking at properties, and he does most of our origination out there as well.
So it's Sean or Sheen? Sean Bloomquist.
Yep.
Beautiful.
He's fantastic.
His picture looks friendly, but hey, I haven't had a chance to actually shake his hand. So I'm just but you seem friendly enough. So I'm thinking, you probably hire some pretty good quality people.
Yeah, I got a great team. Team makes such a difference.
Oh my gosh. We haven't even talked about that. I cannot hear, there are certain things I scream from the rooftops, and what I scream from the rooftops is having your education in line. So you're educated in the assets that you're wanting to work in and the procedure or process that you want to specialize in. Right? Single family, there's so many ways to approach a single family deal, whether you're rehabbing it, whether you're wholesaling it, whether you're being a real estate agent selling it, whether you're being a landlord that's doing short-term rentals, long-term rentals, or whether you're doing, cash for keys or, loan assumptions. So there's all different ways to be able to approach a single family. The asset class sometimes becomes almost unimportant in comparison to one's mastery over the procedure in which you're implementing. Right.
I totally agree.
Okay, cool. Thank you. You can tell I've thought about this a little bit. The other piece is your team, right? Your education and your team. Your team makes your success. So tell me a little bit about how either your experience in that or your point of view on that.
Well, I think it's scary, first of all, especially with your first, few hires. I would say most business owners wait too long to hire. It makes such a difference. As far as hiring it goes, I would say try to hire people smarter than you, which is also a little bit intimidating because you don't want them to go and take over the company or create a competing company or something like that. But I do think you would benefit from hiring people that are smarter than you are. And then it's a culture fit. Like, so when we do our interview process, we're more focused on, are you going to fit in the office? Is it going to be a good culture fit? We're a family here. We care about each other. We work together every single day. So we want to go out and play. We'll do hikes and go on trips and we'll hang out together. And so when we bring in somebody in, we want to make sure that you're going to fit in that. So that's kind of how we design our interviews. Obviously we want them qualified and smart, but definitely the culture fit is the most important. Yeah,
I find that also along with the culture fit, along with, culture fit, competency, integrity, right? Because you can have somebody of high integrity, and if they're not a good culture fit, then you just end up with a lot of fights in the office or a lot of fights over your deal, right? Because I've been in partnerships, and it doesn't have to just be in an office, right? It can be a real estate deal where you're doing a joint venture with somebody, or you're in partnership with somebody, or even just your financiers, right? And you don't really want to be in consistent argument with them because their culture or their point of view is so very different than your own.
Right.
So just to support what you're saying. So I think people get a sense for, Kevin, that you have a depth of experience in this. You know what your company does. You know why you do it. You know what makes you guys good at what you do. Why don't we turn the corner a little bit and move on to what I call the second half of the show, which is, so we know from you've been involved in real estate for almost as long as I have. I think we compete neck for neck at least, right? In real estate, and you might even have more transactions than I do. Being longtime investors in real estate, I think I have noticed, and you have agreed that you've noticed that sometimes your ass gets handed to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes a deal goes wrong, and being able to break through, because that can be something that oppresses you, stops you in your tracks, or you can break through that and move yourself forward to a solution. Maybe that solution is financially successful. Maybe that solution is not financially successful, but you have a solution. You're capable of doing it. And I've asked you if you would be willing to share one of those stories, and hopefully with some good detail so people can understand the problem, what it was, and the solution, and how important having a creative capacity to create a solution is.
Okay. Yep. So I came up with a case study here for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Where I lost quite a bit of money.
Good. Honest.
Yeah, I think you're going to have challenges in business no matter what you decide to do, whether it's investing in real estate or if you're running an auto dealership or whatever it is. There's always going to be challenges. So getting through those challenges is essential to be successful no matter what you choose to do. But in real estate specifically, yeah, there's risk in real estate investing, and there is times where you might lose some money, but what's important is the lessons there. And then, just becoming stronger. Strength wins. So I'd say that. This deal that I chose, I talked to you a little bit before this. I have quite a few I got to choose from, and this one was my largest loss on a specific deal. I've lost more money on partnership stuff, but this one was a pretty big loss on one property. So it was a 23-unit hotel in Branson, Missouri. And in Branson, and this hotel was definitely Class C, which means it's like basically the lowest of the low as far as income level and quality and that kind of thing. So it was a pretty inexpensive entry point, but it was 23 units hotel that I thought I would convert to an apartment complex. There's several of them that had kitchens in them. There were some studios that we needed to put kitchenettes in. And I would go to a long-term rental strategy, and this thing was going to cash flow like crazy. What I didn't know is you can't just convert hotels to apartments. That's not allowed.
Yeah, there's always some piece, something, right? That makes it go right. That makes it make that right-hand turn. Okay.
So I purchased it and started the conversion and was denied by the city because they want their tax income from a hotel. Hotels are taxed much differently than a long-term. And then I would have to do a fire sprinkler system and bring it up to a code that was, it didn't make financial sense to do. So I decided to try to run it as an extended stay hotel, but I still was going to put kitchenettes and everything in it.
Sure.
So I bought it for $275,000, and I had $48,000 in capital improvements to get this ready for an extended stay. I financed it with $25,000 down, and I got a private money loan from an individual that I know for $250,000.
Sure.
So it's like pretty, it feels low risk because I don't have a ton of money out of pocket.
Right. And you're
pretty small.
Your all-in capital is a little smaller than maybe some other deals that you've done.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm flying in and out of Branson. I'm proud of my hotel. I'm meeting some of the tenants.
Yeah, I know that.
So running a hotel in Branson, Missouri is not easy. The property management company fibbed to me. I think I was not able to verify, but I was trying to run my numbers, and they said a vacancy rate for this type of extended stay is probably going to be around 20-ish%. Well, Branson's very seasonal, so in the summertime it's pretty good. In the wintertime it's like 100% vacant. So it turns out my vacancy rate was closer to 50%.
Right. That's a very big difference. That's a different number than 20%.
Big difference. And I believe the property manager when I was verifying all of this, and because I had no way to verify, no one was doing this out there. And I wasn't conservative enough on my numbers. So that number there killed me. Also, extended stay hotels in Branson is a very, very much a cash business. Nobody has bank accounts. Nobody goes and gets money orders. So the property manager is collecting my cash rent for me.
Right.
I'm not sure how much of that cash actually made it to me. So that stung a little. A couple other errors I wasn't thinking of is extended stay hotels. You're not able to do, reimbursements, utility reimbursements to your tenants, and they expect furnished, and they expect internet, Wi-Fi, and they expect all this. Wi-Fi alone was $500 a month on that building. So all these added up. I ended up losing over a 3-year period. I was losing about $2,500 to $3,000 every single month that I held this, and I held it for 3 years.
Okay.
not an
Fair
easy
enough.
project to sell. I put it on Facebook, like, hey, I got this great hotel, guys. It's right on the strip in Branson.
Hey, yeah, all the studios have kitchenettes in them now. It's all,
That's right.
right? It's all improved.
Yeah. By 23 units, and I was trying to sell for 300,000. Remember, I bought it for 275.
Yeah.
I ended up selling it for 275. It's got
Okay.
$5,000 in cash.
Okay.
I got a $70,000 lot in New Mexico, near Las Vegas, New Mexico, which I didn't even know there was a Las Vegas, New Mexico.
There is.
There is.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I own an acre out there, actually. So.
Congratulations.
And then I carried back a $200,000 note at 8% for 5 years.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Not counting the interest on the loan, which was about 80,000. I lost $100,000 in the the cash flow. I lost the capital improvements, the 48 grand that I put into it, since I sold it and bought it for the same price. So when the dust settled, I lost 150 grand, assuming I could sell this lot for 70,000, which I have no idea what it's worth, but I think it's worth at least that.
Very good. So let's break it down a little bit. You went through, because I think it's important. One, yes. Okay. So the things that you missed.
Sure.
Got it. Okay. Education, research, underwriting, diligence, as best as you can. Right. What would you say were your lessons as an investor that you took from this?
Well, I would say I own a bunch of properties in in Memphis, for example, and I could say that they do okay, but numbers, lie to you. They say the numbers are the numbers. Yeah, that's true after you own it. But when you're doing your pro forma and you're trying to look at it, numbers do lie. So I would say definitely be more conservative. Vacancy rates will kill you in markets that with lower rent prices. Vacancy rates are higher, and I've learned that. Maintenance is higher as well as it relates to your rent amount. So a $600 rent, but the refrigerator goes out, that refrigerator is the same price if you're getting $600 a month or if you're getting $2,000 a month. So it wipes out, a month or two of income when you're in that lower price point. So I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but
no, I just did an educational show on this exact thing. If I've got I did this exact thing. I've got a 1%er in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I've got a 1%er in California. And what's the difference between $600 and $500 in rent versus $5,000 in rent? And it's still 1%er. And here's how a refrigerator can take you down.
Yes, right. But it's also the different market. Like I don't know these other markets like I know my own. So I think, as a piece of advice would be, especially for newer folks, stay in your own market until you get a good handle on what you're doing, and make sure you have plenty of cash reserves. Cash, I say this all the time. You can have a profitable business and go out of business. Cash flow is what keeps you going, and reserves keeps you going, not profits on a P&L statement. So be careful with that. Make sure that there's cash flow. Make sure you're investing in something that you understand, and keep reserves.
What did it take for you from the inside to be able to face this and be willing to find a solution?
Oh gosh, that's embarrassing. This is an embarrassing one for me.
Sorry.
By the time I did this deal, Christina, I really thought I was a pretty decent real estate investor. Yeah. This is after 2008. I bought this in 2012. So I had already gone through what I thought was the worst, and it still is actually the worst time in my real estate investing career.
Right.
That was tough. But we were through that, and we were on the rebound, and we were making money, and I was building my net worth, and I thought I knew what I was doing, and then I make this mistake. And 150 grand, that's kind of a lot of money. So did I answer that question? That's that.
What did it take from the inside?
What did it take from
the inside? You didn't. The point is, here's two things that stood out to me. One, you didn't walk away from the deal.
Right.
Right. And the second thing was you actually had a pretty creative solution. And when you described to me what you got paid was $5,000, a piece of land and a note. I'm like, okay, now that's a creative solution.
Yep.
Right. So clearly you didn't walk away from the deal and you came up with a creative solution. That takes some, obviously, brain power, right? The creativity, but also an inner mettle, an inner strength to say, I'm going to work this fricker out, even though it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So it does take strength when you know you're losing money, but I was bleeding, right? I was bleeding 2,500 or 3,000 every single month. I had to come up with a solution, or I was going to lose, everything. One property could take you down. I mean, you go bankrupt and that ruins your credit for 10 years. So I had to find a solution. To me, there was no choice.
Okay.
We were going to get through this no matter what it took. Was I losing sleep? Sure, I was losing sleep. I was thinking about it, trying to come up with an idea. And then we just started negotiating with a potential buyer, and this is together, we worked through this, and this is what we came up with. But I got to tell you, going through 2008, similar to what you told me your story was, that toughens you up a little bit. So I felt like I already had some strength going into this problem. 2008, that was the one that, and you really got to dig deep, but you got to get through it if you're going to be successful.
I assume you made your investor whole.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, he was taken out prior to me selling it. So I was trying to get my costs down. So I had refinanced him.
Okay.
And I was still losing money on
it. Okay. So you made your investor whole.
Yep.
You stayed committed to finding a solution. As I like to remind my daughter, how do you feel when you're being brave is that you feel afraid.
Yes. That's such a great way to describe that.
It's like, how you feeling when you're finding a solution may not feel like you're being brave, but the fact is that you ponied up, you did what was right, you found a creative solution for it. You didn't stand in your righteousness, right, and say, no, it has to be X, Y, and Z. You admitted it wasn't working, right? And yes, it's sleepless nights, and yes, it's anxiety, but you found an integrous completion to it, and you took the hit and you took the lessons.
And it still hurts today. I'm not going to lie.
And you can still hurt today. I have more stories I can share with you too, Kevin. Trust me. I more stories I can share with you. Like you said, the difference between your investments and partnerships, and that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, totally.
But again, I appreciate. So if real estate is a pain, it is something that will challenge us. It is something that will require of us creative solutions, problem solving, and breaking through, having that inner commitment to break through to a successful conclusion. Why do you continue to use real estate for your financial freedom, for your own personal investments, and for creating financial freedom for you?
Because it works. I mean, it's really that simple. Real estate just flat works. I lost 150,000 on that one deal, but I made 7 figures on another one. And I just bought a vacation home up in Dillon, Colorado, which is a little mountain town. We like to ski and snowboard and that kind of thing. And I'll make 600 grand in equity. I'm going to keep it and use it, but there's 600 grand in equity on that transaction. So I think you'll take your hits, you'll take your lumps, but I keep going because there's money in it. And I just love it. The people in this industry are unlike anybody you'll ever meet. They're so giving and caring, and it's a small community. It doesn't feel like that when you're getting started, but it is a small community. And I've just found that people really work together and help each other out. I mean, I could just keep going. I just really love this business.
Clearly, you love the business and you love that it works. And you have crafted, if I may suggest, you've crafted a community that works with you, because not all pieces of real estate have a community that work with you, but you can.
Yeah.
And one of the beauties of real estate, which I personally love, and I even get teased for, is that you craft a community inside of your real estate. You choose the people that you choose to work with. You choose to be able to have that connection. What you put out is what you get back. So I have this statement. Forgive me, I'm lining up my own statement. I'm laying my own groundwork to line up my own statement. So forgive me for hijacking. How you treat your network is how you grow your net worth. Right? It's not just your network, it's how you treat them. Right? And so choosing your community and treating them with integrity and being able to make the deal whole, making your investor whole, getting them out, even though it was, even though in the end you were still losing money, taking your hits, making it good, right? That's part of how you treat your network and part of how people learn to trust you. Not just who you are when it's working, but who you are when it's not working.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for Ed is his name that I loaned that to me, and we went on to do millions and millions and millions of business together. So I mean, yeah. If I didn't pay him back, I wouldn't have got that. So.
That's right. If you didn't pay him back, you wouldn't have gotten that trust. You wouldn't have gotten that continuity inside of your community. So financial freedom, we all hope and have a vision in our head of what financial freedom means to us. It's why we do what we do, is that we have this benefits we're looking from. It's not having $1 million in a mattress that we can sleep on. That's not very comfortable. Sleeping on $1 million in a mattress, I'm sure isn't comfortable. I've never had a chance to actually do it, but someday I should try because I use it all the time, right? Just go, oh yeah, I can verify it's not comfortable to sleep on $1 million in a mattress. I've tried. But what does financial freedom mean to you? What's the vision in your head that has you go, yes, I'm going to use real estate because what I'm looking for ultimately is really what?
Well, I think it's probably the same as most people that come on here. It's free. It's a freedom. It's doing what you want, when you want, with who you want. Money, money is such an interesting topic because it's not really the money that anybody wants. It's what the money creates. And you were talking about sleeping on $1 million on your mattress. And I hear people all the time tell me how much money they're worth because they have all this equity and properties and all this and or partnerships or whatever. And Travis in my office always says this, and I love it. It's like, you can't buy a beer with that equity. You can buy the beer with the cash flow, and the cash flow is what creates the freedom.
Okay. And what you want is the cash flow and the freedom, the control of your time. For me, my freedom is being able to pick up my daughter from school.
Oh, that's such a great way to describe that. Yeah.
That's what it means. So what does it mean for you? What do you get to do when you have freedom over your time?
It really is what I want, when I want, with who I want. So, and I have that now. I've been able to create that for myself. So if you have the cash flow that covers your expenses, you're free. You could do whatever the freak you want. So if it's picking up your daughter, if it's going to my kids, soccer games, that's what I'm going to choose to do.
Kevin, thank you. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the authenticity. Thank you for the story and the case study. Again, as I said, I think it's hugely important that people know that and we share that. And those of us as longer term investors are willing to be truthful and honest. Yeah, it's really great. And you can make millions and you can lose 150,000 too.
Yeah, that's right.
Literally.
Sometimes you have to lose the money to make it because you're going to learn something that will help you make it later.
Said so well, Kevin. Thank you. So Kevin, if people want to get a hold of you because they want to invest in your fund, they've gotten a chance to understand who you are here, listening to the show, your stories for good and for bad, right? And they want to be part of your fund, or they're looking to get a loan on a house they're doing in Colorado, how do they get a hold of you?
Now you're on it. The best way is the website. It's pinefinancialgroup.com. I will share my email. Email is much easier to communicate with me than phone. I actually don't take very many phone calls anymore, but I will respond to email, and that's kevin@pinefinancialgroup.com.
Okay. That's pretty straightforward.
If there's anything I can do to help somebody, I'm more than willing to help someone if I can help them be more successful. I love that.
Lovely. Thank you, Kevin. So appreciate having you here on the show. This is Christina Suter with the Real Estate Breakthrough Show. Tune in each week for me interviewing a guest, as well as lots of free information on FIBIPasadena.com. At least 3 years worth of my real estate meetings are there. We've got Christina Suter on YouTube, Roku TV as well. This podcast is on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and iTunes, at least those platforms, maybe more. I try to be able to offer to you as many free resources as possible to help you gain in your education as you look to become a professional real estate investor as well. ChristinaSuter.com.